Hello YouTube viewers, this is Sai Anusha and welcome to my channel Anu Biology Book. Today I am very excitedly have come before you with an interesting topic. If you are watching my channel for the first time, don't forget to like, share and subscribe and give a nice comment below. And today I have come with a very interesting topic in biology known as cell division. You all know that how the cell is very important in every living organism, and today let's go into a brief detail about cell and a detailed study about cell division. Without any delay, let's get into the topic. So now let us see a brief introduction about a cell. We all know that cell is the basic structural and functional unit of a living organism. So here we have to understand the meaning of the structural and functional unit. Let us see a non-living thing, the matter. The matter is made up of a small unit known as an atom. And if you take a non-living thing known as this wall is completely made up of this small structural unit known as bricks. So here if you take a wall, these bricks are arranged compactly in a systematic manner to form a complete wall. In the same way, the living organism, if you take a human being, the human being is made up of a million number of cells, about 200 types of cells. So all these cells must exist from a pre-existing single cell. If you take the development of human body, here human body has been developed from a single cell known as fertilized egg called as zygote. Right? So this zygote has been formed by the fusion of one male gamete and a female gamete. So here this zygote has been formed from the male gamete known as sperm and the female gamete known as ovum. So the sperm and ovum combine to form a single cell known as the zygote. We can clearly say that this zygote, after repeated cell divisions, have formed a cluster of cells, and this cluster of cells have been developed into embryo, and the embryo has been developed into a fetus. So now that fetus has been developed into a new living organism. So if you take the basic development of a living organism, initially a single cell has been developed known as the zygote, and later the tissues have been formed. These tissues are nothing but a group of cells, and these tissues combinedly they form the organs, and these organs combine to form organ systems. To make you understand in an easiest way, let us take one organ system known as the circulatory system. So if you take the circulatory system in a human body, in this circulatory system, let us take the parts present in a circulatory system. If you take the first important part of the circulatory system, the heart, and also it is made up of blood vessels. So we can easily say that the circulatory system is made up of the heart and blood vessels. Heart is an organ made up of several tissues, and the tissues are made up of cells. Let us see the cells present in the heart. The cells present in the heart are called as cardiomyocytes. So here, if you take the blood vessels of the circulatory system, these are made up of the cells known as endothelial cells. So here, this cardiomyocytes are a group of cells which form the tissues and finally the organ known as heart. And this endothelial cells, they combinedly form as the tissues and finally they have formed the blood vessels. This heart and blood vessels combinedly, it has formed an organ system known as circulatory system. So here this gives an example of the development of cells into tissues, organs and organ systems. Now I hope you understood about this concept of the development of a cell. For the cell to develop into tissues and organs, we need the cell division. The cell has to divide. So now let us see why the cell has to divide and what is the need for cell division in the human body. So now let's get into the need for cell division. Why the cell division is needed in a living organism. So here the first need for cell division is growth. For any living organism, growth is the main criteria. So for the growth of an organism, the cell division is needed because always the growth starts with a single cell. If you take a single cell, as I have already told you about the fertilized egg known as the zygote. Right? So the zygote has been developed into a number of cluster of cells. And this cluster of cells slowly develops into tissues and these tissues into organs and organ systems. And finally, a new living organism, a complete living organism will be developed from a single cell. So the growth, the cell division is very essential. And now coming to the next need for cell division, it is replacement. Replacement of cells. So now tell me, what do you mean by the replacement of the cells? If any wear and tear of the cells, wear and tear is nothing but if you take the RBC, each and every cell has certain lifespan. And if you take RBC and also if you take the skin cells, for every 2 days the skin cells will be wear and tear. And from the parental cells, the new skin cells will develop. And if there are 2 million number of RBCs per second will be degenerated and the new RBC will be generated from the parent cells present in bone marrow. So here if the cells become wear and tear, these cells must be replaced through cell division. There is no other way for the replacement of the new cells. So here we can clearly say that cell division is needed for the replacement of the cells. And now coming to the third one, which is very essential, and there is a need for cell division for repair of the cells. If there is any accidental injuries, otherwise if there are any burns on the skin or if there is any cut or wound that occurs on the skin or due to any accident, if any of your organ has been damaged, again after some days, the new cells must be developed in the damaged part of the organ. For that, the cell division is very essential. So here, we can say that due to the injuries, after an injury, for the repair of the new organ cells, the cell division is required. And coming to the fourth need for cell division, it is reproduction. We all know that without reproduction, there is no generation, there is no population and there will be no living organism on the earth surface. Even if you take the simple single-celled organism known as amoeba, or if you take a multicellular and highly developed organism known as the humans, the reproduction is very essential. If you take a single-celled organism known as amoeba, the amoeba is developed into new 2 daughter cells by simple division of the cell. So here, if you take amoeba and this amoeba through binary fission, 2 daughter amoeba cells are formed with a simple cell division. And even if you take the higher organisms known as humans, the sex cells known as the sperm and ovum. The sperm and ovum have been developed through meiotic cell division. And this sperm and ovum are very essential for the fusion and formation of zygote and development into a new living organism. So here, if you take the growth of an organism, the replacement of the new cells and repair of the damage the cells, and for the reproduction we need cell division. So now this is the importance of cell division. So in the upcoming topic, let us see the types of cell division and the basics for cell division. Now let us learn the basics about cell division. So to learn more about cell division in detail, we have to understand about some terms related to the nucleus and cell. So here the first important term to learn about cell division is chromosomes. So here the chromosomes are nothing but the organization of DNA into discrete units. Here you all know that DNA is the genetic material present in all living organisms, and here the discrete units in a sense that it contains one long DNA molecule associated with proteins. Even if you take the virus, also consists of the genetic material and also proteins. Without the proteins, the DNA, the genetic material cannot get its exact structure. So here the chromosomes, briefly you can say that it is an organization between the DNA and also the proteins. Okay, so now coming to the next term, chromatin. Chromatin is nothing but the complex of DNA and proteins. Here the DNA and proteins in a sense known as, these proteins are known as histone proteins. Histone proteins are the type of proteins which give the support and structure to the DNA. Here as we have seen the structure of the chromosome here, as the black color thread-like structures are nothing but the chromatin fibers, and these chromatin fibers coil and supercoil and condense to form a specific structure known as the chromosome. The complete structure is known as chromosome, and each chromosome consists of two sister chromatids, and the middle part of each chromosome is known as centromere. So later we are going to learn more things about the chromosome structure in detail. So here coming to the chromatin, it is a complex of DNA and proteins. And the next term you are going to learn about the non-dividing cell. When the cell has already been divided and a new cell has been formed, if you see the structure of chromosomes inside the cell, this chromatin is like a loose thread-like structure present inside the nucleus. If you see the chromatin fibers inside the resting phase of the cell, it is nothing but a long thin like fibrous structure. And if you see the same chromosome or chromatin fibers in the cell which is ready to divide, these chromatin fibers will condense, coil and supercoil and condense in the form of rod-like structure known as chromosome. Right? So here the chromatin fibers coil and condense for a cell which is ready to divide, and it becomes very thick. So here we have to note down some characteristics of the chromatin for the dividing cell. Here the chromatin fibers will coil and supercoil, and also they will condense, and also they become very thick. Now we can differentiate the chromatin fibers into different chromosomes. Different chromosomes in a sense, we already know that there are 23 pairs of chromosomes in all the living cells. So we can easily distinguish the 23 pairs of chromosomes for a dividing cell. So here in a dividing cell, when the chromosome becomes very thick, if we add any dye to the cell and observe under an electron microscope, that chromatin fiber can easily absorb the cell, and those chromosomes can be easily visible under a microscope, and so the name has been given as chromosome. The word chromo means color and soma means body. So the body which absorbs the dye or nothing but chromosomes. If you go to the brief history of the chromosomes were discovered in the year 1882 by a German scientist known as Walter Flemming. Walter Fleming is a very important scientist who have discovered the mitotic cell division. The mitosis was first observed by Walter Fleming. Mitosis is one type of cell division, and he has observed that cell division in the larva of salamander. Larva of salamander is nothing but an amphibian. So that we can say the conclusion that the first mitotic division, the division of the chromosomes, has been first observed in animal cell by German scientist Walter Fleming. Now, let's get into the brief detail of the structure and functioning of a chromosome. So now, let us see the structure of DNA. So here, coming to the DNA, as I have already told that DNA is nothing but the deoxyribonucleic acid. DNA is called as the macromolecule because a single chromosome contains a long chain of DNA. If you get into the structure of DNA, it consists of a sequence of nucleotides. Nucleotide is nothing but it consists of one sugar molecule combined with a phosphate group, and also it is attached to a nitrogen base. If you see the detailed structure of DNA here, this is nothing but the sugar. Sugar is nothing but the ribose molecule, which is a 5-carbon compound molecule. And this sugar is attached to the phosphorus on both sides. And here this sugar molecule has been elongated to attach with a nitrogen base, and one nitrogen base which is attached to one strand of DNA molecule prolongs to attach with another nitrogen of another strand of DNA molecule through hydrogen bonding. So here, coming to the nucleotide, as I have already told that one is a sugar, nothing but ribose, and another one is phosphate group, and it is attached with the nitrogen base. Here, the ribose and phosphate are common for all the nucleotides, but the nitrogen base differs. These nitrogen bases are of 4 types. They are adenine. The first one is adenine, the second one is guanine, third one is cytosine, and the fourth one is thymine. And all these 4 nitrogen bases have their complementary pairs. Coming to here, this adenine always pairs up with thymine and guanine always pairs up with cytosine. Here, if you see here, the guanine always pairs up with cytosine with a triple bond always, and this adenine always pairs with thymine by a double bond. So here, this adenine and guanine have their complementary pairs. So here, coming to the histones, what I have told before, if you see, this nitrogen bases acts like a rings in a ladder. If you see a ladder, okay, between there are rings in a ladder. These rings are nothing but the nitrogen bases. If you imagine, all this DNA structure looks like a coiled ladder, and this coiling is supported by proteins known as histone proteins. These histone proteins are about 8 in number. All these 8 molecules of histone proteins are present in between the DNA molecule, and that's why these histone proteins are known as octamer. Octamer is nothing but 8 in number. As this coiled paper is coiled around this marker, just imagine this marker as an octamer which consists of 8 molecules of histone proteins, and now this, let us think this is a double helix DNA structure, and this double helix DNA structure is coiled around the histone protein like this, so that it gives a proper support to the DNA. And the combination of this octamer along with the double helix DNA is known as nucleosome. So now I hope that you have understood the basics of cell division, about the DNA structure, the chromosome, the history of chromosome and the cell, and why there is a need for cell division. And in the upcoming video, we will see about the detailed cell division and the different types of cell division like mitosis and meiosis. Thank you.